Okay, yeah, thanks to everyone for joining. So we are admitting all the participants who wanted to join the colloquium now, and then we'll begin. So to start, we will have Dr. Sitzel Grimstead to start the session with us. Yeah.
Yes, hello, welcome to this session, important session where we're going to...
I can't hear.
What? So welcome to this important session where we're going to discuss and hear input on the statement on cooperative identity, the latest round, the DD3. And we are very lucky to have a distinguished panel from throughout Asia Pacific to get their input and their comments on the current proposal. And I won't take a lot of time now to start with, because I think we will be very short of time when everybody, with all the introductions coming in. So without further ado, I think we should start the colloquium. And Balu, you would start the colloquium with opening remarks to set the scene for this colloquium. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Sitzel, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you to this important regional discussion on discussion draft 3. And it's good to see so many colleagues from the Asia Pacific region coming together to contribute to the work of the Cooperative Identity Advisory Group. At the outset, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to Professor Kurimoto for his leadership in representing our region on SEAG and for ensuring that the diverse perspectives of the Asia Pacific region are heard, respected, and carefully considered throughout this process. My thanks to the ICA committee, research committee under the leadership of Sitzel for organizing today's consultations. And I'm equally grateful to all our presenters, Dr. Donggrade, Dr. Anaps, Dr. Rico, Mr. Maida, Mr. Toulouse, and the Taylor for sharing the outcomes of the consultations undertaken in your respective countries. So thank you very much for joining us. These discussions and what you bring to the table are essential in ensuring that our regional experiences and aspirations are reflected in the global dialogue. As we know, the statement on the cooperative identity lies at the very heart of our movement. It defines who we are, what distinguishes cooperatives from other forms of enterprises, and the values and principles that have guided our movement for generations. It is therefore no surprise that any discussion on the cooperative identity evokes passionate debate, thoughtful reflection, and at times differing perspectives. And having seen some of the presentations today, this comes out. We witnessed this during the ICA Global Conference in New Delhi, and I've seen the same depth of engagement in the discussions within SEAG. This is both healthy and necessary. A statement that has guided our movement deserves careful consideration whenever change is contemplated. Because any change has profound implication. It influences cooperative law and public policy, shapes how government, international organizations, and other stakeholders understand our movement, and guides the way where cooperatives themselves govern and conduct a day-to-day operation. Any revision we make will not only affect the present generation of cooperatives, but will also shape the movement for decades to come. And so, as we reflect on discussion draft 3, I would like to also offer one observation. Every generation faces new social, economic, and technological transformation that test the relevance of the cooperative identity. Today, artificial intelligence provides one such test case. If our values and principles can guide how cooperatives govern data, algorithms, digital platforms, and automated decision making, then they have demonstrated their enduring relevance. If they cannot, perhaps we need to ask whether additional guidance or, if necessary, changes to the statement itself should be considered, and have not seen much of a discussion around how the AI and things can have an influence of the way the cooperatives are themselves working and how this affects. The Rochdale pioneers did not write principles for a single technology. They created principles that outlived the Industrial Revolution. Our challenge is to determine whether the principles can guide cooperatives through the AI revolution. If they can, and I believe they can, then perhaps our task is not simply to revise the statement, but to ensure that its guidance continues to help cooperatives apply timeless values and principles to the challenges of each new generation. Whether or not the recommendation emerging from our discussion are ultimately reflected in the final statement, what matters is that the Asia Pacific voices contributes meaningfully to this global conversation. I feel our responsibility is to ensure that our experiences, insights, and aspirations are placed on the table for careful consideration alongside those from other regions. So I encourage everyone participating to engage openly, respectfully, and constructively. Let us build our shared commitment to strengthening the cooperative identity while ensuring that it remains relevant, enduring, and inspiring for generations to come. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today, and I'm looking forward to the discussion that will follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Balu, for setting the scene and also reminding us of the importance of the work we are doing today. Next, I would like to introduce Professor Akira Kurimoto, who has been a member of the Cooperative Identity Advisory Group and also has been instrumental in setting up this colloquium and helping in disseminating the work that has been done in the CIAG group. The floor is yours, Akira. Are you okay, Akira?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Yeah.
hear you. Yes. Is Naveen going to help you with the slides?
Yeah, please, if you need me to share the slides, I can share from my end.
Akira, do you want
Akira,
Naveen?
you'll have to unmute. Akira, you'll have to unmute.
Akira, you need to unmute your. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now we
Yeah.
can hear you.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. But we can't see your
there is
slide.
no share button.
Do you want Naveen to share the slides? The share button is down below. Share screen, it says. Should say.
Akira, do you hear Cecil's voice? Do you hear me? Hello?
No, I can't hear from you. Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so next slide. Okay, thank you. Okay, I shall start. Now I shall explain very briefly about the journey from Rochdale to Manchester. Rochdale society's rule gradually evolved to principles since 1844. But Rochdale pioneers, Rochdale principles enshrined in the rule book from 1860, the first configuration of cooperative principles in the ICA 1937 Congress in Paris, and second configuration of cooperative principles was made in 1966. And on the same year, the ILO recommendation 127 on cooperatives, developing countries, was published. And finally, the ICA identity statement was approved at the ICA 1995 Congress. So next slide, please. From Redrow's report to the ICA identity statement. Alex Redrow's report, Cooperatives in the year 2000 at the 1980 Congress, was instrumental in the discussion on the cooperative identity. He warned the cooperatives on three crises: credibility crisis, managerial crisis, and ideological crisis. Now we call it identity crisis. And he questioned on the validity of existing cooperative principles of 1966. But he had not provided prescriptions, but that should be written by cooperators that he insisted. Next comes Lash Marcus in his report on cooperative and basic value at the 1988 Congress, focused on the membership as a core of the cooperative values, answering Redrow's question, and enlisted member participation, adherence to democracy, honesty, and caring for others as cooperative basic values. And then Sven Oke book report in the ICA Tokyo Congress 1992. He had proposed the cooperative values in a changing world, and he again recommended to revise the existing cooperative principles. And finally, the ICA identity statement was approved at the ICA 1995 Congress in Manchester. Ian McPherson drafted and involving worldwide discussions. So next slide, please. So process of consultation of the ICA identity statement. We started the consultation process in the ICA Seoul Congress in 2021, and SIAC was formed. In 2022, SIAC had conducted survey using the internet site of SurveyMonkey. And then 2023, SIAC had published toolkits to ask members, sectors, and regions to discuss about the cooperative identity. And discussion forum on the website was set up with more than 30 languages. And consultation at national, regional, and sectoral level has been made, especially in Asia Pacific. In 2022, we had conducted 6 sub-regional workshops from Southeast Asia, South Asia, West Asia, Pacific, etc. So we are most eager to discuss and participate in the consultation process. And 2024 DD1 was released, and recommendation was adopted at the ICA New Delhi General Assembly. I should mention this recommendation. That is very important documents to engage all the cooperators of the world to look to identity statement and to articulate it and to live with it and to communicate and to protect the identity. So it's very important documents for the years to come. And at that point, DD1 was released, but with some discussions from Italy, DD2 was released 2025, adding the new sentence or new word on the indivisible reserve. It was proposed by Italians in New Delhi, and again, this was insisted by them. So DD2 had incorporated the indivisible reserves. And then SIAC had met for the first time in the real meeting in Paris. And then there was a discussion from Hagen Henry, the chair of the law committee, and that had given us the caution on the legal matters, legal connections. So today I'm very pleased to listen to Ang Apps, a member of the Cooperative Law Committee, expressing their own views. And discussion on DD3 using software of Lumio. You may know Lumio, that is New Zealand-based workers' cooperative, to make easy the collective decision-making. It's very effective tool to have some consensus or to give some good summarizing of the discussions. And then in June, DD3 was released. There were already more than 20 opinions, and it will be closed. The deadline is the 31st of July, so still there will be another submissions of opinions. So next slide, please. So DD3 contains preamble, definition, values, and principles. And for the first time, preamble was added because in the 1995 statement, there is no statement, just definition, value, and principles. And then some commentary was made by Ian McPherson. I have assisted him in preparing this background paper, but that is not enough. So we have created the guidance note in 2015 by the ICA Principles Committee. I was a member of that. So next, please. So preamble, it's very easy to explain what this DD3 means. And as the last of this preamble, it reads, as the world changes, the ICA may review the statement through its democratic and deliberative processes, taking care of to preserve the integrity of the cooperative identity as it is sustained and passed on from one generation to the next. So this is a very important preamble to summarize the whole contents of the DD3. So next slide, please. Definition, there is no change. Now, there are some changes proposed in the comments to DD3, but I shall not coming into this. So next, please. Values, some changes or to change into more legal words. So the contents is not changing, just expression is changing. For instance, instead of self-help, we have put the mutual self-help. That was coined by Svenoke book. in the ICA Tokyo Congress. And then the new things would be transparency instead of openness. So that is just changing the expression, but what it means is the same. Okay, and then stewards, being stewards for future generations, they practice social, economic, and environmental responsibility. So instead of just social responsibility, the DD3 added the economic and environmental responsibility. That is a very important point. So next slide, please. Corporate principles. It is the same thing in another expression. Next slide, please. There is no fundamental change, but it is more easy to read. Like all kind of discriminations is summarized in the open without discriminations to all persons who can contribute to or use their services and who accept the responsibilities of membership. So this is only a slight change, rephrased the basic lines of the 1995 principles. So next slide, please. Second principle, there are some additions. It is the senior leadership roles are accountable to the members who exercise their control through their voice, their vote, and their active participation. So in this sentence, very important words have been added. One is voice, not just voting in the General Assembly, but voice is very important. Members' voice is very important in the governance of cooperatives. So that is added. And also their active participation was added. That is a really important element of this principle. So this new configuration, new expression has fortified or deepened the expression of the 1995 principle. But of course, its soul or its real purpose has not been changed. So number 3, next please. Third principle, member economic participation. There are many opinions on this principle because instead of the title, member economic participation, this 1995 sentence had been dealing with only financial matters, that is share capital and reserves, and not concerned about the usership of the members. So next slide, please. So number 3 principle had been very much fortified. So members contribute to their cooperative economic life when they use or produce its products and services. They contribute equitably to its capital when that is the same, basically same. That is one thing. So usership was added. This is very important change, and many opinions have been expressed in this regard. So this DD3 incorporated those voices to mention about the usership or the role of members as users, not only as investors or shareholders. And cooperatives allocate surplus for any or of all of the following: developing the cooperatives, setting aside reserves, at least a portion of which remains indivisible, providing for education, distribution to members in proportion to their businesses with the cooperatives. That is often mentioned about the patronage refund in the American usage. And benefiting members or another equitable basis. So this is added because there are some cooperatives which had placed greater emphasis on the use, not only share capital. In case of United States or many European countries, agricultural cooperatives have such an arrangement of proportional voting and proportional return of return of profits or reserves. So this is containing such an consideration. So basically, the content is not changed, but very much clarified. That is to say about the changes in the third principle. So next, fourth principle, please. Fourth principle, autonomy and independence. Sorry, wait, 10 seconds. すいません。今ちょっと国際会議やってるんで、オンラインで1時間後に来ていただけますか。すいません。すいません。Sorry, I was called by this delivery man, but I asked him to come again 1 hour later. Okay, so fourth principle, basically no change. So next, please. Fifth principle, the title was changed. Instead of information, it is now called public promotion. Because information is very widely used language term, like information age, information revolution, etc. Because this sentence includes the expression, they inform the general public, particularly young people and opinion leaders. So this McPherson had taken this inform and make it as a information, but it really means is a public promotion. So, and the Japanese translation had already used the public promotion. Okay, so next slide, please. Sixth principle, cooperation among cooperatives. Basically no change. So number 7, so next slide, please. Yes, seventh principle had said concern for community, but concern cannot be translated into another languages. So in French, it was engagement, engagement, or in Spanish, it was interest, because concern is English typical language. So we have discussed this in 1995 in very depth, and we have used commitment instead of concern, and I have mentioned it. And so this commitment was used to the title of this newly composed title of the seventh principle, commitment to sustainable communities. Communities is also very English typical language, but it is become communities. So it includes not only local community, but also wider global community, or even on the website, the global village, etc. So it is very much expanded the scope. And then this principle had added new terms and work for sustainable development of their communities and a secure, just, and peaceful future for all. So this was quite new expression, very much expanded the scope of the seventh principle. Of course, the basic idea is the same. That is to engage in the not only mutual affairs, but also more public affairs like communities, but with some limitation or some, how to say, some words to delimit the scope of this principle through practice and policies supported by their members. So this kind of the commitment to the committees should be approved or supported by their members. But here there is some discussion about, I insist that we should maintain the approved instead of supported. But it is still in the ongoing discussion. So next slide, please. So legal aspects of the identity statement. I think UNAPS will give you more in-depth consideration why Hang and Henry had mentioned this concern. And it is also a very important intervention in Paris meeting, and we're still discussing on this. But I think this is my own idea. The identity statement is not binding, nor no legal judgment by the court. In contrast, the ICA treaties has to be ratified by national governments, while the European Cooperative Societies statute needs to be implemented by enacting the corresponding national laws. So these are binding, but identity statement is not binding in this regard. So identity statement is included in the rules of ICA as private entity. After all, the identity statement is an international norm of cooperatives and may affect national laws. However, it's a pity that it did not affect the Consumer Cooperative Act and the Agricultural Cooperative Act when they were amended in 2007 and 2015. So even the government didn't understand this identity statement to the truth. So next, please. So revision of guidance note. A guidance note of cooperative principles were published in 2015, just 20 years later than the ICA statement 1995 by the ICA Principal Committee, but they are rarely used. And guidance note on the definition and the values are also to be made. The guidance notes will be drafted by David Rogers, a British person who had been chair of the Housing Committee, and Irving Crowell, who is managing director of the American Consumer Corporation. He is still young, and so he will assist David Rogers to implement this guidance notes. monthly SIAC meeting will examine the drafts, and guidance note will be available on the internet and easy to users to refer each other through hypertext. For instance, if you read the cooperative principles, you can jump to the relevant values, for instance. So it's very easy to handle. So next, please. How to proceed for in the year coming months and years. Regular consultation in SIAG, revised guidance notes, has been started, and SIAG will meet in Pula, Croatia, next month. And 2027, SIAG submits final drafts to the ICA board, including the proposed changes, and identity statement will be approved at the ICA Congress in 2028. The date and the venue is not confirmed yet. Okay, this is what I wish to present today. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Akira, with this wonderful run through the suggested changes and also your the justification for the changes. I think that was really important. I just wanted to ask you one more question. There is a before we continue with the other presentations, we have a deadline looming over us, Akira, the 31st of July. Is that do you want to wish to comment on that? No, I can't hear me.
No, we had already 1 month, so it's enough. So, and still new comments is coming in addition to more than 20 comments. So I don't expect that deadline will be extended further. Thank you.
Okay, but so if people or academics or organizations want to comment on them, we still have until the 31st of July to submit comments and proposals. Yeah, okay, I think that's we need to remind ourselves of that going forward. Anyway, I think we'll leave the discussion towards the end because we have a long list of panel members which will present their views from the different Asia Pacific countries. And the first presenter will be Professor Jang from Sungko University in Korea. Please make your presentation.
Thank you, Cecile and Akira. Yeah, I couldn't prepare the slide form of my presentation on the identity statement. In fact, we South Koreans have no apex organizations representing the whole cooperative sector. So we don't have any consultation process formally as far as I'm concerned. So this is my personal reflection, observing after some conferences in South Korean scientific researchers gathering and cooperative activist conference in early this July, we celebrated a week session for cooperative and social and solidarity economy organizations as a whole. So the title I made that Social and Solidarity Economy, SSE in short, to the statement for strengthening the cooperative identity. The recommendation, the DD3 presented by Akira, I found that there is no terms on SSE in the statement. So I'd like to propose to put that SSE term in the statement. Then why? Why the statement should recognize the SSE? Internationally, as you know well, in 2024-3, United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution promoting the SSE for sustainable development. So that resolution supplied the official UN definition of SSE and encouraged member states to develop national legal framework, statistics, and so on. And so the UN definition of SAC clearly closely mirror the cooperative value and principle already in the statement. So the cooperative is one of the founding constituencies of SSE alongside association, mutual societies, and foundation, and self-help organization, and voluntary groups, etc. So, and in addition, the ICA itself is not new for this position. In 2020, ICA published a position paper, cooperative as a key constituent of the SSE, explicitly supporting what became the 2024 UN resolution. But the statement has not yet been amended to reflect that position. So, and secondly, the Korean case, the South Korea offered a concrete example of why this recognition now practical urgency. A framework act on SSE has been under discussion in the National Assembly for over a decade. And hopefully by the end of this year, the law can be enacted. The national government of South Korea has separately announced a comprehensive plan to expand the social solidarity economy, including cooperatives. In fact, the cooperative is the most important player of SAC in South Korea. The government proposed that the SAC sector should be promoted to be more than 10% of whole GDP by 2035, alongside the expanded public-private financing channel. So if national SSE legislation is enacted, Korean cooperative will operate within a legal category, i.e. the SSE, that the ICA statement does not currently name. So other jurisdictions, including France, Spain, already have SSE framework, law, and strategy for their own. So a revised statement that never used the term describing the cooperative movement identity. So my proposal is maybe in preamble or principle 6, we can add social solidarity economy. For instance, in preamble, cooperatives are also founding constituents of the wider social and solidarity economy, which include the association, mutual societies, foundations, and self-help and voluntary groups. And in principle 6, maybe we can add the similar things in the final sentence. And when they operate with a wider social and solidarity economy, including blah, blah, blah. So my recommendation is SSC addition can be made by adding a closing preamble sentences and expanding principle 6 by one clause. It's also the most time sensitive of the proposed edition, given the base of national SSC legislation in South Korea and international SSC policy at the UN since 24. In short, I believe that the present the DD3 proposals and revisions seems to be very feasible and working for each national environment, including South Korea. But I also point out that in South Korean context and the current political and economic environment, SSE should be added or put in the statement in order to expand that cooperative sector to world more wider the economic players within the social solidarity economy. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Zhang. I think we will just continue with the presentations so we can have a long discussion at the end. The next on our panel is Professor Yashavanti Dongre. Please start your presentation.
Thank you, Sitzel, and good morning, everybody. Naveen, can you please share the slide? I was part of the, as a member of the consultative committee in the first phase in 21-22 along with Akira, and now not a part of that in the second phase. So in the first phase, I was trying to interact with different cooperative organizations in India, trying to push them to respond to the survey, trying to find out their views. And also there were a few workshops and discussions. So where the academic and the researchers participated. So I'd just like to summarize some of the points that emerged in the process. A few of them are already the ones which I had communicated in the first phase, and maybe they have been already addressed. A few new concerns are coming up after the third draft. But the context is that the cooperative sector in India is very, very large, very diverse, and it's built around very small local cooperatives. And a lot of the times cooperators understand and practice cooperation based on the context of their local culture and many times on the political context. It's therefore very, very challenging to get a unified single view about the principles in Indian context. However, the survey questionnaire circulated during the first phase of consultation were discussed, as I suggested, in different forms. As a member of this committee during the first phase in the consultation process, I had personally interacted with several cooperatives on this issue. So based on this, I wish to classify the responses that we have received as institutional responses and individual responses. Next slide, please. At the institutional level, we find that during the first phase of consultation, several institutional representatives, notably from the cooperative apex organizations, have orally expressed their views. Most of these had constituted part of the details I had already shared with the committee. Broadly, the institutions at that time had not seen a case for revising cooperative principles. In fact, many were saying that the principles in the present form are good enough. What needs to be changed is probably the guidance notes. That was the kind of view that was expressed at that time. After the new draft is released, there seemed to be no formal institutional response so far. However, some of the cooperative apex organizations or individual cooperators which are members of the ICA have been part of the discussions held during ICA General Assembly or CM50 meeting in Brussels, I think in June. That's what I understood from some of the cooperatives. Next slide, please. So individual responses include the views expressed by representatives of cooperatives, president, CEO, not an official institutional response, but individual response, and also by the researchers or academic. The responses from researchers are generally available in written form, either as individual submission or as part of the proceedings of the workshops or seminars. Broadly, when we put all these together, I noticed that there are 5 key areas that have emerged as a response to the latest draft that we have now. Next slide, please. So the first one is the proposed revisions have generally strengthened the cooperative identity and enhanced its long-term value. This is what many people are saying, that they are happy that the changes that have been made are generally helpful, and the cooperative identity statement now looks better. Some people said that it's quite likely that it lasts longer than the statement that we had earlier. Universality is a critical element. The new statement should be simple to understand and convert into action in all parts of the world. Now, while saying this, many researchers in particular and the cooperative representatives feel that irrespective of the language you speak, you should be able to understand the principles. The challenge in India is that there are at least 16 major languages, and many of them, they don't read English. So it's important for them to understand the principles in their own language, and language is not just a medium of communication. It also has the culture and values, everything built into it. So how do we create such a simple interpretation? That's very, very challenging. So many people are saying that further polishing is required in this direction. Any change in the statement should give due consideration to probable legal implication. 2-3 elements have been highlighted. One is whether the legislations in different states are going to change because of the change in the principle. But more importantly, people are also worried whether some of the restrictions on their business operations are they likely to come up because of the changes. One person mentioned to me that the seventh change in the 7th principle, though it is largely appreciated, of commitment to sustainable communities, if it is interpreted as a commitment for sustainable development, there is a possibility that some cooperatives may not get a permission to do certain types of businesses. I mean, this is a kind of interpretation, so people are worried about what's the legal implication. However, largely, a document clearly detailing the conceptual and practical side of the cooperative principle need to accompany the statement. This is what people are saying, which is nothing but the guidance notes. Earlier, Akira had also mentioned in our first round of discussions that the guidance notes itself in its present form is quite complicated. So I think the guidance notes should help people, again, cutting across regions, languages, to appreciate, understand the principles. And many people in India are looking for that kind of a document to accompany the new statement of cooperative identity. In earlier case, I think the statement came in 95, whereas the guidance notes came much later. So this is an expectation that seemed to be there. So this is a broad overview of what's happened in India. I hope I'll be able to get some more responses for the email communications that I have had, and maybe I'll try and put them together and share that with Akira. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dongre. That was very insightful, I think, the different perspectives. Now we are going to have Robbie Toulouse in presentation.
Yeah, Dr. Cecil, before that, Dr. Patrick has requested to present his slides.
Yes, please try to stick within 5 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes, so that we won't go over time. But yes, that's great. So Dr. Patrick Rico, you can start your presentation.
Thank you, Prof. Giselle. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. And it's my privilege to represent our country in our panel discussion today. So before I begin, I would like to clarify that the reflections that I will share today are not a result of a formal national consultation, but I will keep on receiving emails from them because I've emailed them regarding their comments and suggestions, recommendations on the DD3. Rather, what I will present today are from focused conversations from with different cooperative leaders, cooperative development practitioners, and I hope that these perspectives will contribute constructively to our shared discussion on the future of our cooperative identity. Now, the Philippines is one of the largest cooperatives, one of the largest cooperative movements in Asia, representing diverse sectors including credit, agriculture, co-op electric. And then because of this diversity, the statement of the cooperative identity continues to serve as a common foundation for all of us. However, our conversations also recognize that today's operating environment is very different from that of 1995. Cooperatives are now responding to digital transformation, climate change, demographic shifts, artificial intelligence, and increasing expectations from transparency and accountability. Next slide. So, since there was no formal
Freeze.
Sorry, Patrick, you have frozen. The screen has frozen.
Yeah, there seems to be some internet connectivity issue. Such.
Okay. Patrick, are you communicating with Patrick Naveen?
Yes, I'm communicating, but yeah, it
Yeah,
seems like
Oh, he's back.
yes, I'm back. Okay.
it's okay. So
Okay,
yeah,
so next slide, Naveen. All right, thank you. So since there was no formal consultation under the ICA process, I reached out to some stakeholders. And what I will share today reflects the themes that emerged from those conversations. Next slide. One thing that came very clear, people that asking for a complete rewriting of the statement. But in fact, there was a broad appreciation of the for draft 3 because it modernizes the language while preserving the essence of the 1995 statement. The more interesting discussion was not about changing the principles, but about how the cooperatives can better live these principles in today's context. Next slide. Let me first state the overall Philippine position for the DD3. So from the conversations we conducted with cooperative stakeholders, there is a broad support for the discussion draft 3. Participants appreciated that the draft preserves the essence of the 1995 statement while updating its language to better reflect contemporary realities. We particularly welcome the stronger emphasis on accountability, sustainability, education, education and public promotion, and the recognition of future generations. Overall, the draft 3 is a positive and well-balanced evolution of the statement of the cooperative identity. Next slide. The participants generally agreed that the definition, values, and 7 principles remain timeless rather than just revising the identity itself. They just suggested strengthening the ICA's interpretive guidance to explain how these principles apply in contemporary issues like artificial intelligence, digital platforms, cybersecurity, and climate resilience. Next slide. So the world has significantly changed since 1995. Democracy is no longer exercised is no longer exercised only in physical meetings. Many cooperatives now conduct online assemblies and digital voting. Likewise, education should now include digital literacy and ethical artificial intelligence. Next slide. So the participants also observed that young people are often mentioned only in relation to education. Yet, if we truly want intergenerational sustainability, the youth should be recognized across all principles as members, as leaders, as entrepreneurs, as innovators, and decision makers as well. Next slide. In the next slide, sustainability has a very practical meaning in the Philippines. Every year, our communities experience typhoons, floods, and our cooperatives are often among the first institutions to respond. Therefore, resilience should be more explicitly reflected in how we interpret principle number 7. Next slide. One recommendation came up repeatedly in our discussions during our focus group discussions is to have a well-written statement, statement that on how we can actually live these statements. The stakeholders suggested exploring a voluntary framework that would allow cooperatives to periodically reflect on how well they embody the principles. So this is not just about regulation or certification, it's about learning, self-improvement, and strengthening cooperative identity. Next slide. So the cooperative identity is not just something that we declare, it should be something that we demonstrate. So they discussed that we have to have a voluntary assessment framework to help the cooperatives reflect on their strengths, identify areas for improvement, and share good practices across the global movement. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. So I'd like to end by offering these questions for our collective reflection. Perhaps the next evolution of our cooperative identity is not just about adding more principles, but about strengthening how we interpret, practice, and continuously improve them. Next slide. So as we end as I end this one, the draft successfully preserves the essence of our cooperative identity. Thanks to our community who continues to work for this one, while making it more responsive to our today realities. Our conversations in the Philippines suggest that the future of the cooperative identity lies not just in rewriting the principles, but in ensuring that every cooperative can meaningfully translate these principles into governance, member participation, education, innovation, and community impact. And I hope that we can contribute to our shared effort of keeping the cooperative identity both enduring and relevant for future generations. Next slide. So that would be all. Maraming salamat. Thank you to everyone. And we are still waiting for other emails coming from the different cooperatives here in the Philippines. And we'll be happy to provide feedback until July 31st of this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Patrick. That was a really insightful presentation and with some really important points regarding youth and resilience. Coming from the particular Philippine circumstances and really valuable into this debate. Are we having Robbie Tulu's presentation now, Naveen, or?
Yes, we have his video, so we are going to share his video.
Yeah, Robbie is in a different time zone, so he has kindly recorded his presentation. Thank you.
Dear friends, fellow cooperators, good day. Well, first of all, I'd like to apologize for not being able to join this ICA Asia Pacific Colloquium on the cooperative identity today because unfortunately I have a medical appointment early in the morning and the colloquium occurring between 1:30 and 3 in the morning, so it's rather a rather inconvenient time. But I must say that I have undertaken quite an intensive consultation through the WhatsApp group involving 447 members among the credit union and the co-op family in Indonesia. So I'm therefore pleased to share this consultative process in Indonesia through this very short video. Well, the first and foremost is the general context that we were talking about the cooperative identity statement. There was a general feeling that the concept of justice seems to be not enough and needs redefining. Well, specifically from the macro point of view, is how the macro ideological context of cooperatives operates within a global framework seems more leaning towards the hegemony of the developed nations over developing ones, especially the poor nations, so it is not adequately addressed within the cooperative movement. As a result, for over a century now, there was a feeling that there has been no significant change and that the operating principle, therefore, should also be able to reflect this particular situation, and this led the group to think that principle number 5 is the most important, because in the developing nations, especially in the South, education and training is different from those being given, say, in developed countries, because we need to do many, many more innovations in terms of how to educate them through different means. Because it's also feeling that innovation isn't primarily about technology. Innovation is a way of thinking. And technology is one of its, one of its outcomes. So if we have good initiatives, we have good commitments and consistency and passion, our group felt that innovation will give or will grow into becoming a culture. And that's why innovation is so important from the viewpoint of our consultation. So if you look at the 6 or the 5th cooperative principles, the new proposal was says education, training, public promotion, and it's therefore meant to be educating and training and giving information to members, elected representatives, managers, and employees to strengthen their engagement. And I think that it's indeed very, very important. And the group felt that in addition to those 3, education, training, promotion, innovation is very crucial. Because innovation should be added, if possible, to the 5th principle, or even some said to be a separate principle by itself, because it is explicitly stated that making innovation is a priority and allowing key performance indicators in any cooperative to be formulated by it, while also reaffirming that education is intended to enhance the ability to innovate. And especially among the poor, especially where financial literacy is still one of the key issues to be engendered, if the ability to innovate improves, the hope is that cooperatives will be able to better educate and serve their members. And therefore, proposing a revision to Principle 5 of education, training, information, or the new one being public promotion, we add innovation to it. The rationale is that innovation in cooperative must be rooted in the development of human capital through education. Without proper cooperative education, especially through andragogic means in the developing nations, innovation will merely be seen as part of a capitalistic model disguised as a cooperative, which is identity-based innovation. So cooperative innovation differs from conventional corporate innovation because corporate innovation focuses on profit maximization, whereas cooperative innovation focuses on improving member services, governance, efficiency, and the sustainability of the social impact. In reality, there's no such thing like cooperative innovation, actually, because corporate innovation or cooperative innovation is simply innovation. It's about creating something better, more efficient, and more beneficial. But in the cooperative system, it is more benefit that members should have, not profit. In cooperatives, it is more for benefits. Members have to feel that through various kind of innovations, they feel the ownership within the cooperative. Whereas in corporations, it is mainly used for consumers to be objects, and of course to maximize profit. So innovation is happening also very often in the mobile phone industry. Consumers reap the benefits, but they only reap the not the benefit of values, but the benefit of social media and used for different means, whether or not they are cooperative members. So innovation should be included in the fifth principle, and some even said as a separate principle. This is because, based on empirical data, and of course some cooperatives in Indonesia have seen it, the cooperative movement will stagnate or die, and many are happening that way without innovation. In the balanced scorecard strategy map outlined in the standard of the BSC strategic plan, innovation falls under the internal business process component. Well, if you look at Nokia, for example, BlackBerry went under also at that time because they failed to innovate. Innovation can be achieved when an organization has mastery over data, information, and networks, and used it also within the educational and training processes. Some even mention that, well, should we perhaps not look at the Japanese culture, work culture, the concept of Kaizen? The question, does that culture exist in co-ops? Do we just go about our work as usual as every day? Because I also remember that during the Cooperative Identity Statement promulgation in Manchester in 1995, it was Japan who added culture and not just social and economic in the definition of cooperatives. So it is highly relevant, we believe, or the consultation believe, that innovation be included as a separate principle too. So, in final analysis, it is recommended that innovation be added to Principle 5 to read education, training, public promotion, and innovation, or, in the most ideal case, it's recommended that innovation be a separate principle altogether. So it's a Principle 8, innovation. Thank you very much for your time, friends and fellow cooperators. I hope this will generate and elicit some discussion about principle number 5. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Robbie, Robbie's presentation. I think we will just continue. Mr. Kenki Maeda from Japan, are you ready to present your slides?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, okay. I'm Kenki Maeda from Japan Cooperative Alliance, and I'm dealing usually with the Japan Cooperative Alliance, which is JCA, is the apex organization of the Japanese cooperative movement, and I'm in charge of international affairs and also the cooperative identity consultation. And the next slide, please. What we did in Japan regarding this consultation. Could you go to the next one? Okay, thanks. We thought this consultation was very important and valuable opportunity, and we just decided to use this opportunity to understand the identity, discuss it, making the statement better, and put it into practice. And we positioned the 2022 as a year of learning, and we call for learning to the movement as a whole. And the 2023, we positioned the year of discussion, and we called for workshop all over Japan And there was 42 workshops. There were 42 workshops with 2,300 participants. And based on the points that was raised in the workshops, we put together JCA's opinion and submitted it to the ICA. In addition to JCA, Japan Consumer Cooperative Union, JCCU, and a local research center for community and cooperation also made their submissions. The next slide, and please, 2025 responding to DD2, and we submitted our opinions again based on our discussion, domestic opinions and discussion, and also JCCU and RCCC also made a submission. And right now we are putting together JCA's opinion on DD3 by the end of this week. So the thoughts presented in the following slides are not yet final, but I would like to share some thoughts on DD3. Next slide, please. The first thing is that first thing that we think important is that commitment to sustainable communities. And so especially in Japan, with the aging and shrinking population of local communities, it's important to cooperatives' commitment to sustainable communities. So, and the DD3 has been dealing with that. In values, they added a new sentence, and also the title of the Principle 7, commitment, from concern to commitment. And also the Principle 7, they have a new phrase, which is a secure, just, and peaceful future for all, in addition to the development of their communities. So we support this thing, DD3, regarding this point. But we would like to, the guidance note to mention the collaboration with social solidarity economy actors other than cooperatives, because that's very important to revitalize local communities. So that was mentioned by me, Professor John too. But we think we will not say that that is mentioned in the statement itself, but well, at least we will say that it should be mentioned in the guidance note. The next slide, please. The second point, second theme that we think important is member participation. And the member participation is always important, and it should be strengthened. And the DD3 deals with this issue in mainly Principle 2 and Principle 3. And which was mentioned, Mr. Akira, the voice, votes, and active participation. And the PR3 says the members contribute to the cooperative economic life when they use or produce its products and services. And next slide, please. We think basically we support DD3, but we think it's important to have a broad view of active participation that mentioned in PR2. And there are a lot of way of participation other than voting and speaking. So we would like to have these kind of things listed here, be mentioned in the guidance note. And also the PR3, there is a word that's produce, which is has been added with worker cooperative in mind. Actually, it says they use or produce its products or services. So, but I think this word can be more broadly interpreted to include various activities of other kinds of cooperatives, such as listed in the slide 3.345. So I think it will enrich the contents of the member participation by broadly interpret this new DD3 sentences. So, okay, the next one, right? Employee engagement. We just want to say that we are happy that it's mentioned in the Principle 5. So we would like to guidance now to emphasize the role of employees as co-workers for the cooperatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Maeda, for your valuable contribution and perspectives from Japan. We are going to be a bit over time. I hope that is okay, because we need to have a discussion at the end as well. But now I would like Anthony Taylor from the BCCM in Australia to present the perspectives from Australia. Thank you.
Thanks, Sitzel, and thanks to the ICA Asia Pacific for hosting this. In Australia, going back to 2023, 2024, we ran a webinar jointly with the movement in New Zealand to get feedback at that time and to put forward an initial view. And I guess at that time, the view that we got from cooperative leaders in Australia and New Zealand was that they were broadly happy with the principles and thought the core things around member democracy and member ownership are reflected in there, and having the principles is useful for our advocacy and engagement with the community and upholding our identity. That broadly it serves its purpose. But then the leadership level, we found, probably didn't have the detailed knowledge that, for example, cooperative academics in Australia and New Zealand had around the statement, which is mentioned in the current draft preamble, around it being interlocking, and that all the principles, not just the core around member democracy and ownership, but things like education, reinforce the other principles, that's not so well understood in the movement in Australia at all levels. And so there was a view that it was important to deepen the engagement with the principles as they were, and that they're a very solid formulation. Since 1995, they've worked very well, but there's still lots of opportunity for them to be utilized more within the movement and for policymaking and other things. Going forward to 2025 and the second draft, we provided feedback on that draft. The key thing from our point of view was indivisible reserves were removed from the draft. And in Australia, I think the history and the movement, the reason why the drafting in 1995, but there's others here who know more than me who might be able to comment on this, but that there's never been a really, really strong consensus in the movement on this point. And that's why perhaps the wording was cautious in the 1995 statement. But then it was removed in that draft, and that was something we wanted returned or actually strengthened in the statement going forward. And we're pleased to see that in the current draft that it is in there, and the wording is clearer from our point of view. So that will be our key piece of feedback that I expect that we'll make going to this round of consultation. I think on some of the other changes, we'll provide feedback on where we think specific wording is stronger or not stronger than before, but that's the core one that we're most concerned about in Australia, and that we think is going in the right direction, having it more clearly defined as part of the cooperative identity now in the statement than it was in 1995. And I think one of the things we've been debating is how do co-ops keep up when there's developments in the last 20, 30 years like B Corp and social enterprise. And I actually think being strong on indivisible reserves is a way that we can do that. That's something where we can be really clear about our economic structure and ownership model and our long-term sustainability as a differentiator. So it's not a direct way of saying that we're going to do social responsibility, but it's a way of saying our core structure is there and enables us to do that with other people. And for us in Australia, that's a really important way we can do that. And it's a live thing that we're working on to advocate for with government here, to have the legislation better reflect that part of the identity. And we think if we're successful in that advocacy, it will open up some of those conversations with the community and with government about our distinct role in providing economic, cultural, and social value That's the key things I wanted to share from Australia. Thanks.
Thank you, Anthony. Important input on indivisible reserves. I think that's an important element that we need to take into consideration going forward as well. And historically, it's important. It has been undermined, I guess, in some cooperative sectors. Okay, I will go to our last speaker, Dr. Anne Apps. She is a member of the ICA Cooperative Law Committee and the member for Asia Pacific, and we are very happy to have her here to talk about the perspectives from the legal sense of changing the cooperative statement. The floor is yours, Anne.
Thank you, Cecil. And thank you, everybody, for accommodating me at the tail end today. I know initially I wasn't going to speak, but we've had some meetings, the ICA Law Committee recently, to respond to the third draft. And I mentioned to the committee that I had this opportunity perhaps to come along and just let everybody know what we were thinking. And I do want to thank Kuramoto Sensei for acknowledging the importance of the work of the committee in terms of issuing a caution about changes to the statement. Next slide, please. The very first, I've arranged these in a series of points, and I'll try and run through them quickly so that we do have an opportunity to have a discussion. But the very first point is that the statement should be viewed as a foundation document for the cooperative movement in a global sense. And I accept and agree with Professor Kuramoto's point that it may be that changes can be introduced that won't interfere with lawmaking at the domestic level in some countries, but I do think it will interfere with what has been achieved since the adoption of the UN guidelines and ILO recommendation 193 in the early 2000s. So in the time that we've had since then, we have achieved an enormous amount in having an identity, a global identity for cooperatives recognised at that level, so at both the regional level and the international level. So my very first point is that it's not just about what happens at the domestic level, it is also about what happens at the regional and the global levels. And we now have accumulated almost 3 decades of legal and institutional authority. And we know that it takes a very long time. The law is so slow moving, and that's a source of frustration to many, but it gathers momentum over time. So the risk, that the caution that we want to that is causing us concern is that we have, because of recommendation 193 and because of the ILO guidelines, we have many existing laws, model laws, policies, education materials, policies, including those that have been released by the ICA, embedded around the world. And that if we introduce a new statement, if we revise the statement, it will be a new statement in the sense that it will be separate from the 1995 statement, which will continue to exist because it is already embedded in those documents. It won't just disappear. And that this might, for some time, we will essentially have 2 documents or 2 different texts, and they'll be conflicting. And we really are concerned about the confusion that may create. So it may weaken rather than strengthen the identity, the cooperative identity. So next slide, please, Naveen. Professor Hagen Henry has been arguing for some time that once the cooperative statement on identity was received into ILO recommendation 193, that it then became a source of public international law. Now, that particular argument is controversial and for a range of reasons, and I don't necessarily disagree with his arguments, but it's not necessarily accepted by all public international lawyers. I don't need to go into that, but I do need to make it really clear that the position of the ICA CLC, the Cooperative Law Committee, the members as a whole, is based on a much broader argument. And that is that ILO 193 and the guidelines provide a very solid basis for the legal defence of the cooperative identity. And that has been on display in many fora, including the International Court of Justice, where the Cooperative Law Committee was able to come out in support of the ILO Convention on the Right to Strike, using our position as it has been recognised in ILO Recommendation 193. Also, the European Commission, there have been some important cases which have, I'm just trying to remember the name of the case, but there is a very important tax case where the Commission referred to the UN guidelines, the 2001 guidelines, and we've also had national superior courts refer to the statement, and examples can be given in Argentina, Italy, and India. So that's the point, that it provides a very solid basis for the legal defence of the identity. Next slide, please. The ILO has kept track of the use of ILO Recommendation 193 in the development of cooperative law globally, and it has estimated that at least 117 member states have used and or referred to either ILO Recommendation 193 and or the statement to guide the reform of cooperative law. So an example from the Asia Pacific is in 2025, Jordan passed a new cooperative law which included specific references to both ILO Recommendation 193 and the 1995 statement. All the regional laws and regional model laws refer to the statement. That's OHADA, the Europeans' statute, Latin America's framework law, and the African Union model law, which has only very recently been passed by the African Union Parliament. So the point that we want to make is that this global recognition of the 1995 statement through policies and laws, including ILO Recommendation 193, distinguishes it radically from the 1937 and 1966 texts, because at that point, at the point that those texts were being revised, we didn't have this level of attention by global institutions. And this has been a very positive thing for the global cooperative movement. Next slide, please. There is a concern that revising the statement might actually undermine the role of the UN and the ILO as champions of the cooperative identity. We know that many countries in the Asian Pacific region are developing countries, and the UN and ILO regional offices play an extremely important role in guiding cooperative law reform. And, you know, I know because I'm about to go over to Fiji because Endesa is supporting cooperative law reform in the Pacific Islands, and we're incredibly grateful for the support that they've been offering there. So if we change the wording of the principles, that then calls into question the guidance that is currently offered in ILO Recommendation 193 and the guidelines. And it would be neat if they could update their documents to match any revision of the principles, but we know that that's not going to happen quickly, that sort of process may not happen at all, particularly because we see these global institutions, the UN and the ILO, under attack by what's happening globally at the moment, this sort of their status as institutions that reflect a type of international law is certainly being challenged at the moment. So it's unlikely that we're going to have, immediate response to any change by the ICA to the identity statement. And this is really a big concern of ours, that then we will have two competing texts in circulation. And we're also worried that that disconnect between Recommendation 193 and the guidelines, both of which adopt the 1995 statement, might undermine the role of the ILO and the UN as champions of the cooperative identity. Next slide, please. So I know that this has been taken and quite understandably so, that you might take this to say, oh, the CLC is opposed to any changes to the statement, and that is not the case. And I have listened with great interest to the submissions that have been made particularly by Japan, India, and the Philippines about what they see is needed. And I'm really interested to note that all of them were very, very interested in strengthening the role of the guidance notes, and absolutely agree with Patrick about the idea that we need to pay attention to how we actually live the cooperative identity, and that measurement is an incredibly important way that we can strengthen that identity. So the CLC is not opposed to change. We just want everybody to be aware of the likely consequences, and that rather than strengthening, and I must say that, I'm not opposed to a lot of, this is personal, I'm not opposed to a lot of the changes to the wording of the statement. They're neat and tidy, and they do clarify meaning. And if we were at ground zero, then I feel I would be supporting most, not all, but most of those changes. But we're not at ground zero, because we have the statement that has been embedded in ILO Recommendation 193 and the guidelines, and it's not going to disappear. So we will have two competing texts out there. So does that mean that you should never change the statement? No, it just means that when any changes are proposed, just like with a foundation document, you don't necessarily change a document if you are trying to clarify meaning. There are other ways that you can do that, largely through guidance notes and interpretative documents. If you're talking about actually changing the principles, that's a different story. So if you want to add in a new principle or change the meaning of one of the existing principles, then that is something that, if that's the tack that the global movement wants to take, then it needs to be confident that the change, the positive impacts of that change, will outweigh the consequences of that period of uncertainty that's going to be caused by inconsistent texts being in circulation. So yes, we're not suggesting that changes can't be made. We're just suggesting that you have to think about the legal implications of those changes. And finally, that I think I already made a point, that the CLC thinks that much can be done to strengthen and promote the current identity, and that should take priority over changes to the statement, unless we are very sure that the positive impacts of those statements will outweigh any negative consequences. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Well, this in a way puts in perspective what changing the statements might mean to going forward when we have the statements ratified in the UN and ILO conventions. I want to open the floor for 10 minutes of discussion now, or questions and answers. Naveen, can you take the slides away and then help me notify me of who wants to pose a question or have an input into the discussion? Is there any questions so far?
Dr. Stitzel, can I speak here? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Yeah, Professor Mishra.
Yeah. Very nice to hear all these developments. Sorry that I was not in the loop, but I could appreciate a lot of background work has already been done, and you are at the third stage of the draft document. Personally, I could feel that all the justifications made across all those principles leading to cooperative identity are mostly, arrangement of words. Because I could recollect Dr. Patrick saying, measure what is to be measured. So when we say identity can be measured only by rearranging certain principles and justifications, may not actually hold true in my view. For example, is there any test case for us or before us to say that these existing statements are not delivering or has delivered or have delivered to its truest sense? Without the test cases, we should not jump into conclusions that this redefining cooperative identity is due for revision. Perhaps that could be one of the things that I can say. For example, we say that self-help must go towards mutual self-help. I say this is cooperation, and cooperation is voluntary. But no, we have to be very careful about what are we looking for, what are the motivations behind such changes, and what is the outcome. If we're not getting into outcome-related measurements, perhaps we are actually doing something in haste. Second is that sustainable community. Recently in Odisha, we are now in my state, home state, I'm part of the Odisha state cooperation policy drafting. We said that mining cooperatives, labor cooperatives, and sand cooperatives, mineral cooperatives should also be strengthened. And when we say sustainable community, that means members are also coming from the same community to create a cooperative. If you do not have cooperation among all these constituents, perhaps cooperatives will not thrive. Thirdly, and to conclude, if we are looking at sustainability, good governance, member participation, asking youth to be coming up and staying in the business, perhaps there is a role of government and other stakeholders to have mutual cooperation. So I'm a little bit, stressed that not knowing the motivation behind. And Dr. Ann also said something very succinctly that we should be very careful about such type of revisions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Krishna. Do we have any more comments, questions? I'm sorry, I can't see everybody's, if there's any other hands up. Naveen, you have to help me.
May I ask one question?
Yes, sure.
I have a question to Anthony. And in the indivisible reserve, is that common in your cooperative in your country? I mean, most of the cooperatives in your country, that's not common in Japan. And I think that wording right now, which is the same as the current one, is a little too strict. So yeah, I just want to know what is the situation in your country regarding indivisible reserve.
Thanks for the question. Yeah, the situation in Australia until now is we don't have a framework for indivisible reserves in co-ops. an individual co-op could find a way to do it, but it isn't in our framework. So it's very uncommon. But it's something that the movement in Australia wants to be part of the structure. What we would advocate for in the legal framework in Australia isn't for it to be mandatory for every co-op, but to have it in the legislative framework and to encourage more co-ops to opt into that system. I think the wording in just having clear wording in the principles, and even if it's stricter than what's in Australia, like we wouldn't be too concerned about that. It would actually, to what Anne was saying, this is actually a case where for us in Australia, at least, we're only one part of the global movement, but for us, having a stronger wording on that in the principles and in the identity is helpful for what we're trying to advance in the Australian context. And yeah, obviously we respect that it might be different for different countries, and that's what we're trying to work through here. But yeah, hopefully that helps you understand a little bit about the context in Australia.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions? I think we will go on for maybe max 10 more minutes, maybe 10. Any other questions? I think I would like to pose a question, because what hasn't been mentioned a lot here is the role of the guidance notes. Because we all talk about changing the statements, and we understand that there is a debate whether changing the statement will strengthen the cooperative identity or not. That I will leave that aside, but I think the role of guidance notes and having having guidance note that look to the future. We've been mentioning Balo in the initial presentation talked about technology. We see issues like innovation and a lot of elements from different countries that countries want to have included in the statements, but a lot of this should be more thoroughly explained in the guidance notes. Now, I'm just wondering, first of all, the process of revising the guidance notes, and also maybe what are the legal implications here? If you could talk about that. So, Akira, what's the process of changing the guidance notes, and what's the current standing on that? And the other one is a legal issue, I think.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, so I recall what we had done in the 1995 statement. I was together with Yama person in the back room of the Congress, and we have discussed how to make some commentary to the ICA, statement on definition and values and principles. But because of lack of time, it was not complete. So especially Principle 7 has very short explanation. So I have said Yama-san had tired. So anyhow, we have created the guidance note just 20 years later. And at that time, the ICA had composed the Principles Committee, chaired by Jean-Louis Vancel, a Frenchman, and I, and the other one was from JA Zenchu, Japan, and the others from Sweden, etc. But it is a very small, a team of small number, just 5-6 members. And we have discussed and proposed to the procedure to make the changes of the cooperative identity statement, or cooperative principles at that time. And then we have done. And that was made by David Rogers, who had been the chair of the ICA Housing Committee. And it was very good, but very lengthy. So very few people have read through all these documents. So now we have to make the guidance note new to include both the definition and values in addition to principles. So this guidance note will be named the guidance note to the identity statement, not only the cooperative principles, but also definition and values. And the process had just started. The term of reference was made, and David Rogers and the other one from the United States doing the preparations, and we shall deal with this draft guidance note every month in the SIAC online meetings. And next week, we shall meet again to discuss about the contents of the guidance notes, new guidance notes. And that is very important as a guidelines or commentary so that we can, all of us can understand fully about what the statement means. Because statement is just one-page documents. That is very short, and it is not possible to explain everything. So we need to have some commentary. In German, it is called Kommentar. Every law has a very strict explanation of word to word. That is what they make commentary in German legal system. So we shall do the same in the cooperative identity statement. And so, and many points, including the digital transformation or the geopolitical challenges and global warming, etc. Those elements should be explained in the guidance notes, not in the principal identity statement itself, because it is too, it will become very lengthy identity statement. So to avoid this, we shall make the guidance notes separately so that anyone who can refer to, who can tap information on the background and meaning of the word to word by reading these documents as guidance notes. So we have already started to write the guidance notes, new guidance notes, and it will be finished after the identity statement will be renewed or updated in the ICA Congress in the year in 2028. So that is what we are foreseeing the process of drafting the guidance notes.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I think it will be important for us to also maybe have some input into the guidance notes from the Asia Pacific.
Yes,
I think that will be really important, and to be be part of that process going forward, because many of these issues that have come up here certainly needs introducing into the guidance notes and in a way future-proofing the statement through explanations. And I challenged you to talk about legal importance of these two different documents, because I don't think that is clear always.
Firstly, the legal status of guidance notes is not something that, like, I don't think it's something that is a concern in the sense that, and this is why the guidance notes are so important, is because they allow us the flexibility. They are a very flexible tool by which we can update and reinterpret the principles as the context and as the world evolves. And as we know, the terrifying thing at the moment is things are happening, change is happening so quickly, and we know how much our legal systems are struggling to keep up. In fact, they're not keeping up with what's happening with AI and algorithms and so on. The legal status of things like guidance notes and annotations is generally what we call persuasive. So it's not binding in that sense. And that's what's so good about it, because it does allow that flexibility. It will be up to the ICA to set out the parameters of how the guidance notes might be. If we're talking about something that's a much more living document than the current guidance notes, if we're talking about something that is much more accessible, that is much more regularly reviewed, and and so on. And I don't think we need to limit the global movement to one type of auxiliary document. You can have guidance notes, you can have in annotations, which annotations are generally like noting any legal interpretations that have happened, like noting cases, for example, that have in different countries that might have interpreted or looked at the cooperative identity. So you can have more than one supplementary or auxiliary text. The status of those auxiliary materials will be something that the ICA itself will need to sort of maybe set some parameters around and frameworks around. But that's, fortunately, that's an internal thing, so something that we have a great deal more freedom to work with. So it was really interesting that everybody really mentioned the importance of the guidance notes and making them more accessible. So I think that's a very positive step in the right direction.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you, Akira. Yes, any more questions? Naveen?
Yeah, no question. I think just that, we could not address Professor Misra's question. So I think I'll again write to Professor Kurimoto so that if we can get any answers around that. And also we are already 2 hours, so do we have time to take any more questions?
I knew it would be hard to stick to the timetable with so many speakers and important inputs. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but we can. Yeah, Akira, you answered the question from Professor Mishra, and then I think we close the session.
Could you please repeat what Mishra had questioned?
Yeah, so what his question was that when this consultation began in 2021, as you mentioned during your presentation, so was there any test case to support or refute the existing cooperative principles? That was the first part of the question. And then second part of the question was, what does an identity mean in the present context of sustainability and sustainable community where cooperatives can contribute?
It's a good question, and I think the sustainable development is a global agenda for the year 2030, and that is what we should do as a part of the society or economy to contribute to the attainment of that, contribute to the attainment of the goals set by the United Nations. And in this regard, we are pursuing the same target of the 2030. That was unanimously approved by the United Nations, and that is now treated as indivisible and very important policy agenda to be achieved during next 4 years. So in this regard, we are doing the same thing with United Nations, so that the cooperatives can contribute and can give good contribution to attain the targets and objectives set by the sustainable development. So in this regard, we are in the same boat, and we think we cannot distinguish between our agenda and the UN agenda. That is the same, and but of course we cannot do, the cooperatives cannot do everything. We have to collaborate with other parties like governments and businesses and other civil society organizations. So in this regard, the Principle 7 has very important meaning, and we can contribute to the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals by practicing the cooperative activities and business in accordance with the SDGs. So that is what I think about the answer to Mr.'s question.
Thank you, Kira. I think we need to start closing down this session. It's been wonderful to hear all the different perspectives from the Asia-Pacific community, starting with Balu, talking a lot about the rapid change transformation happening due to technology, AI, and so on. We see Akira has mentioned several changes, suggested changes, and the justification for these. From the Philippines, the focus on youth, resilience, technology, and how to, what shall I say, future-proof the statement so that these important elements are included. Japan talks about strengthening the statement in regards to the cooperative movement being stewards for future generations. I think that's an important element. And commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals. And last, and Korea, we see for also the input from Korea, strengthening cooperatives as part of a larger social and solidarity economy. I think these are all reflections of Asia-Pacific reality, because we, in Asia-Pacific, we have the region that is most affected by climate change, by serious flooding, typhoons, and so on. And so the impact of the current global warming is most felt in our region, and I think that's so important that this comes through. I think also that the issue of technology and how do we future-proof our statement so that it becomes an important tool going forward in this very rapidly changing economy. I think that's important. That was just a very short summary. It doesn't give justice to all your presentations, but I hope it's been useful for you. I would just remind you all last that there is still a possibility to submit proposals or input into this process. And Naveen, I hope you can distribute the hyperlink or the registration so that you can submit. And the deadline for submissions to the statement, the cooperative identity statement, as has been presented here, is the 31st of July. And that's an absolute deadline, if I understand Akira right.
Yes.
I think one thing that we have to keep in mind is also what we mentioned last. There is a process to revise the guidance notes, and I think the guidance notes will be very important. I know that they are very long and sometimes, personally, I would say hard to understand. I think that's my personal opinion. I think they need to be much clearer. They need to be also focused on what Patrick so nicely said. They need to be focused on co-op practice. How do we live? How do we practice cooperative identity in the real world? So I think that is a very important process that we should need to be involved with going forward. And with that, I think I won't say any more, but I know that Ayushman, you will say the vote of thanks.
Asman's here, so he has been like part of the CIAG meetings for more than 6 months now, coordinating the meetings at the global level. So he'd like to conclude, and he'll say the feedback form. I think he has already said the feedback form in chat box, so you all can submit. Over to you, Asman.
Yeah, hi everyone. It was a great session, and it has been my privilege to be a part of the CIAC discussions, starting from the consultations on discussion draft 2. And the discussions have been very enlightening, a learning experience for me mostly. And what we've discussed today again has sort of made it more clear to me that how important it is to make decisions regarding the statement of cooperative identity with good thought and good understanding of how much it holds in the world. Having said that, I would also like to first thank Balu sir, Mr. Balu Iyer, for providing me with the opportunity to be engaged in these very understanding and very educating meetings. As we come to close the Coop Colloquium 18, on behalf of the International Cooperative Alliance, Asia and Pacific, I extend my sincere gratitude to everyone who've made today's session possible. First, big heartfelt thanks to Professor Kurimoto, whose insightful keynote presentation was very thorough, and the valuable contexts and insights that he proposed regarding the revisions and the journey has brought us to the stage of the global consultation. Sincere appreciation to our distinguished panelists, Professor Seong Kwon Jang, Professor Yashwantha Dongre, Dr. Patrick John Rico, Mr. Kenki Maeda, Mr. Anthony Taylor, and Dr. Anaps. We are equally grateful to Mr. Robbie Toulouse, who was not here with us online live, but he had joined through a video message. Thanks to Dr. Sitzel for expertly moderating today's discussion, and to Mr. Balu Iyer, whose opening remarks and the leadership that he has given has ensured that the Asia and Pacific region actively engages in shaping the future of our shared cooperative identity. And lastly, to all our participants, thank you for your thoughtful questions and reflections. Your participation demonstrates the commitment of our cooperators across Asia and the Pacific to contribute meaningfully to this once-in-a-generational conversation. Finally, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the ICAP Committee on Cooperative Research and to our secretary and my colleague, Mr. Naveen, for his dedication and the meticulous coordination that has been done for the colloquium. We have shared a feedback form in the chat, and there is also the link to the Cooperative Identity website, should you have any questions on the developments that we've seen so far. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to continuing this conversation together as we shape the future of our cooperative identity.
Thank you very much, Ayushman.
Can we also just have a quick click of everyone with their cameras on?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, getting everyone. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we are done. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, again. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. This was a very good
Thank you.
session.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.